Good morning, everyone. Today is the 15th of November, 2021. Mark is reading chapter 21 of the Holy Spirit by Arthur Pink today. Holy Spirit, chapter 21, part 1. Chapter 21, the Spirit leading. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Romans 8:14. This verse presents to us another aspect of the varied work of the blessed Holy Spirit. In addition to all his other functions, he performs the office of guide unto the godly. Nor is this peculiar to the present dispensation. He so ministered during the Old Testament times. This is brought out clearly in Isaiah 63. Where is he that brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he that put his Holy Spirit within him? That led him by the right hand of Moses with his glorious arm, dividing the waters before them, to make himself an everlasting name, that led them through the deep as a horse in the wilderness, that they should not stumble as the beast goeth down to the vow of the Spirit of the Lord. As the beast goeth down to the vow of the Spirit of the Lord, caused him to rest, so didst thou lead thy people, to make thyself a glorious name. Verse 11 through 14. Moses was no more able by his own power to induce the Hebrews to pass by the waters of the Red Sea, across the trackless desert, than by the mere extending of the rod he could divide those waters. Moses was simply the human instrument. The Holy Spirit was the efficient agent. In the above passage we have more than a hint of how the Holy Spirit leads. It's by means of the inward impulse as well as by external directions. Among his comments upon Romans 8:14, Matthew Henry says, led by the Spirit as the scholar in his learning is led by his tutor. As a traveler in his journey is led by his guide, as a soldier in his engagements is led by his captain. But such analogies are inadequate, for they present only the external side, leaving out of account the internal operations of the Spirit, which are even more essential. O Lord, I know that the way of man is not in himself, it is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. Jeremiah 10:23. By nature we are not only ignorant of God's way, but reluctant to walk therein, even when it is shown us. Therefore we find the church praying, draw me, we will run after thee. Song of Solomon 1:4. All we never seek unto God, still less run after him, till we are divinely drawn. This humbling truth was well understood by David of old. First he prayed, teach me, O Lord, the way of thy statutes, give me understanding. Psalm 119:33 and 34. But second, he realized that something more than divine illumination was needed by him. Therefore did he add, make me go in the path thy commandments, incline my heart unto thy testimonies. Verse 35 and 36. By nature our hearts are averse from God and holiness. We can be worldly of ourselves, but we cannot be heavenly of ourselves. The power of sin lies in the love of it, and it is only as our affections are divinely drawn unto things above that we are delivered from sin's dominion. Moreover, our wills are perverse, and only as supernatural grace is brought to bear upon them are they inclined Godwards. Thus to be led by the Spirit of God is to be governed by him from within, to be subject to its secret but real impulses or strivings. Not only are our hearts inclined by nature to temporal, material, worldly, and evil things rather than to eternal, spiritual, heavenly, and holy things, but they are to federate custom to. As soon as we are born, we follow the bent Our natural appetites in the first few years of our life are governed merely by sense, and the pleasures begotten by gratifying our senses become deeply ingrained in us. Moreover, by constant living in the world and long contact with material things, the tendency increases upon us and we become more strongly settled in a worldly frame. Can the Ethiopian shade his skin, and the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. Jeremiah 13:23. Custom becomes a second nature to us. The more we follow a certain course of life, the more we delight in it, and we are only weaned from it with very great difficulty. Natural lusts and appetites being born and bred in us from infancy continue to cry out for indulgence and satisfaction. The will has become bent to the carnal course, and the heart craves material pleasures. Hence, when the claims of God are presented to us, when the interest of our souls, things of eternity, are brought before us, when the beauty of holiness is presented to our view, they find our wills already biased in the contrary direction, and our heart prepossessed with other inclinations, which by reason of long indulgence bind us to them. The heart being deeply engaged with delighting in temporal and worldly things, is quite unable to respond to dictates of reason and set itself upon that which is heavenly and divine. Even the voice of conscience is unheeded by the soul, which prefers insidious lullaby of Satan, not but the almighty power of the Holy Spirit can lead the heart in a contrary direction. Now the heart is inclined toward God with a habitual bent of our affections is more to holiness than to worldly things. The power of sin lies in the love of it, so it is with the dwelling grace. Grace prevails over us when we love so the things of God, the bent of the will, and the strength of our affections is carried after them. The course of our desires and endeavors, the strength and stream of our souls runs out after holiness, and the heart is inclined Godwards. How is this brought to pass? How does God reduce our rebellious hearts and mold them beings of His will? The answer is by His word, by His Spirit, or putting it another way, by moral persuasion and by gracious power. And I will put my Spirit within you, because you to walk in my statutes. Ezekiel 36:27. This God does by combining together invincible might and gentle inducements. God works upon us morally, not physically, because He will preserve our nature and the principles thereof. He does not force us against our wills, but sweetly draws us, presents weighty reasons, casting to the mind one after another until the scales be turned and all is made efficacious by His Spirit. Yet this is not a work which He does in the soul once for all, but is often renewed and repeated, and because the flesh or sinful nature remains in us unchanged even after regeneration. Therefore do we need to ask God to continue to incline our hearts toward Himself. This brings us to notice the intimate connection which exists between our present text and the verse immediately preceding it. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die, but if through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. Romans 8:13. If we yield ourselves to Spirit's impulses to restrain our evil propensities and our proneness to indulge in then heaven will be our portion. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Thus Romans 8:14 is said in confirmation, application of verse 13. Only those who are ruled by the Spirit give evidence that they are the sons of God, to be led by the Spirit. Verse 5, to through the Spirit mortify the deeds of the body. Verse 13, suitably did Calvin remark on Romans 8:14, thus the empty boast of hypocrites is taken away, who without any reason assume the title of sons of God. Thus we are led by the Spirit both actively and passively, actively with respect to His prompting, passively on our part as we submit to those promptings, actively by His pressing upon us the holy requirements of the Scriptures, passively as we yield ourselves to those requirements. The Spirit is our guide, but we must obey His motions. The immediate context in it is His restraining motives which are in view, moving us to mortifying of sin, but is leading us not to be restricted to that. He exercises inviting motives, encouraging us to the perfecting of holiness, and this being guided and governed by the Holy Spirit is an infallible proof that we are living members of God's family. Is the office of Jehovah the Spirit and the covenant of redemption after He has called the elect out of the world to place Himself at their head to undertake their future guidance. He knows the only path which leads to heaven. He knows the difficulties and dangers which beset us, the intricate maze of life's journey, the numerous false routes by which Satan deceives souls, the proneness of the human heart to follow that which is evil. And therefore He in His infinite grace takes charge of those who are strangers and pilgrims in the scene and conducts them safely to the celestial country. Oh, what praise is due this heavenly guide! How gladly and thankfully should we submit ourselves to His directions. How hopeless would be our case without Him. With what alacrity should we follow His with what alacrity should we follow His motions, directions, as we have already pointed out. The blessed Spirit of God leads both objectively and subjectively by pointing us the correct precepts of the Word. Their actions may be regulated thereby and by the secret impulses from within the soul, impressing upon us the course we should follow, the evils to be avoided, the duties to be reformed. The Spirit acts upon His own life, the renewed soul. He works in the Christian a right disposition of heart relating to truth and duty. He maintains in the believer a right disposition of mind, preparing disposing him to attend and to reveal the will of God. He speaks effectually to the conscience, enlightens understanding, regulates desires, and orders the conduct of those who submit themselves to His holy suggestions and overtures. To be led by the Spirit of God is to be under His guidance and government. Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to pick up on this tomorrow. Part 2 of this chapter.